Hello, everybody. It's English Seminar 2. And I want to go over today what I call the lovely verb structures. And this comes or is inspired by Michael Vence, Unit 16. Our great Michael Vence. Unit 16, and what we do here is we talk about how we use our verbs when we have more than one verb together. Do we use an infinitive verb after the first verb, or do we use a gerund or an ing verb that's sort of the beginning? And then he takes us through some other structures too that are very useful and helpful in your English. So when you speak English, you start to sound like a really good native speaker type speaker, which is what everybody wants, I suppose. And so what I'm going to do is just kind of real quickly go through the lecture notes from this unit. And this unit from Michael Vence is pretty much what we need to do with that is just kind of learn these. That's kind of the only thing we can really do. We have to first recognize that there's more than one structure when we have two verbs, and then we have to learn which ones use an infinitive, which ones use a gerund as a second verb, and then some of them can use both. Some of them can use also what's called a clause of that clause, and we'll get into all that. And again, Michael Vence explains all of this really well in this unit and kind of breaks it down in a simple form. So let's start here. What we want to discuss is like when we have two verbs in a row in English, what is the form of that second verb? And is it going to be in a to plus infinitive? So, for example, Jackson wants to move, all right? So our second verb is move, and it's an infinitive. The verb is an infinitive. So one, you've learned this back in learning English at grade school and stuff. You've noticed this. And then there's one that we don't think of so much, but it's also very, very common. And this is where the second verb is an ing verb, or what people call a gerund or an ing verb. And here we have Sally denies stealing the computer from the library. So what determines what that second verb is the first verb. So want, for example, the second verb is always going to be infinitive. There's some verbs that second verb, every single time, if there's a second verb, it will be infinitive. Want is one of those. And deny is a verb that whenever, so let me put it this way. Like I said, this first verb determines what kind of verb that second one will be. And deny always has a gerund verb as the second verb, okay? So some verbs are like that. The second verb needs to be a gerund, or the second verb needs to be infinitive. And we want to kind of discuss those and the nuances through those. Again, Vence gives us a great kind of understanding, a great list of those in the unit, which I do kind of want to, from the very beginning, expose you to and let you see. And something that's very, very useful is on the third page of description is this one. I really recommend looking at this list and going over the details on this page. To really kind of, I'll explain it more as we go along, but I find it really useful and a really good way for you to expand how you can use verbs and create more complicated or more precise sentences, let's say. So right now we have two verbs. We have a verb plus an infinitive is one structure, and then we have a verb plus an ing verb or a gerund. And again, remember, it's the first verb that determines the form of the second verb. All right, now Now, unfortunately, and you probably all know this intuitively, some verbs can use both forms and the meaning doesn't change. So that's quite simple. One of these verbs is like, so you can say, my mom likes to cook. My mom likes cooking. So either form, either structure is okay. Like plus infinitive or like plus gerund, and the meaning doesn't really change of the sentence, of the context. So that's fairly simple. Start is another one. Chris started exercising after her second baby. Chris started to exercise after her second baby. So here, you can start uses both models. It uses the gerund or it can use the infinitive, and it doesn't really change the meaning. There might be a slight nuance, but not really. And there's some verbs that are like this, and he goes into those here in this unit. All right, and he gives you a list of those, and that makes things easier for you now. But some verbs, though, they can take both forms and the meaning changes. And this is what's important, is we want to learn what the difference in meaning is between if the second verb is infinitive or if the second verb is a gerund. So one of these is stop. Okay, and let's think about these two examples. On the way home from chess practice, Wayne stopped to buy a Starbucks coffee. So we have stop to buy. This is infinitive. All right, this is infinitive. And what happened here if in Wayne? What did Wayne do? So what can we see? Wayne's walking home. He sees a Starbucks and he's like, yeah, Frappuccino. And he stopped and went inside. He was on the home and he went inside and got the Frappuccino. Now, here we have another example with the gerund. Wayne stopped buying Starbucks coffee last year. It was too expensive. So here we have Wayne stopped buying. Our second verb is a gerund. And the meaning of this sentence is much, much different. Okay. What does this mean? He stopped buying Starbucks coffee. It means he no longer buys it. This is like stopped smoking, stopped going to yoga, stop studying English at the English department, UJEB. All right, this is means you quit. Okay, so you can get the sense that there's a difference in meaning between these two structures, these two forms. Remember is another one of these. The next morning, I didn't remember calling Boshenka. So what is that? We have didn't remember, and then the verb, we have a gerund. And I don't know if this has happened to you. It's happened to me before, that you go out, you have some fun, you meet up with friends, you go to whatever, maybe you have a little bit too much fun, a little too extra, and you wake up and you see you got a message because you called someone at 1:30 in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh. And I didn't remember, or I don't remember calling Boshenka at 1:30 in the morning. And it's like horrible when I didn't want to do that, but who knows why I did it. And this means I have no memory, no recollection of it. Okay, this is the ing. Now, here's the other example, and this is with the infinitive. I didn't remember to call Boshenka. I didn't remember. And this is something completely different. The meaning is different. The meaning here is what? It's that I was supposed to call Boshenka at 10:30 to tell her what time I was coming home, and I forgot. I didn't remember to call her. Believe me, you never wanted to do that. You always wanted to remember to call her, because the price she would pay not to call just wasn't worth it. But hopefully you can see the difference in the meaning. I didn't remember calling her, no memory of it. I didn't remember to call her. I just forgot to call her. So the meaning's different. And it's really important what you want to communicate if you choose to use the gerund or if you choose to use the infinitive. Now, And again, this is another thing that Vince talks about, and that some verbs normally followed by an infinitive, where the second verb is an infinitive, can also be followed by a clause. Okay, and a clause is, like we've talked a little bit about, a clause is, in our conditionals, we have an if clause and a main clause, and a clause is like an idea, but it's not a complete sentence. It's just sort of like, he eats spaghetti. It's not really it's just a part of a bigger idea. Okay, so now, this is what a clause is. And so some of these verbs, and again, Vince gives you a nice, and I have some exercises I made and that are in the book that kind of helps you learn to formulate these. So you can use promise, for example, with infinitive. I promise to go to the Zabava with Ladenka. That's pretty clear. All right, that's an infinitive. Now, you can also create your sentence, and you know this instinctively, with a clause. Promise allows you to do that. I promised that I would go to the Zabava with Ladenka. This is a clause, that I would go to the Zabava with Ladenka. Okay, so that means promise. This is a normal thing. This, you know, that you want, you know that promise works this way. Swear. Monica swore to be home by midnight. So here we have infinitive, and you know, swore to be is the infinitive. The meaning here is the same. It's just about being able to construct it. And so and this is what we have here on this list. If you see, these are normal in verbs that use the infinitive, and then he puts a little asterisk by them if they can also use this clause structure. So please take a look at that. And look at his examples. And we can do the same thing with verbs that normally use a gerund or an ing. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So for example, suggest is a gerund verb. Normally it takes a gerund. Francis suggested trying the goulash. He said it was tasty, okay? Now, there we go. But this suggest usually takes a gerund, but we can also add this clause, that plus a clause if we want to. Francis suggested that we try the goulash. He said it was tasty, suggested that we try, okay? So there we have the clause, and notice the clause is that we try. It's different, the grammar's a little different. And there's another example with resent. And again, on your Michael Vince, it's this list here that has these verbs, these gerund verbs, or these verbs that use a second gerund verb, that some of them, there'll be a little asterisk next to his list that allows you to take this clause and create it. Okay, now he also, we're going to go into, there's some other forms, and kind of like it needs to have an object, person plus two, and he does fairly well with presenting them and some of these exceptions. And so what I usually do is try to get people to understand that you want to learn the whole structure on these. So for example, beg. So it's not just beg plus infinitive or beg plus gerund. It kind of works. So there's these other verbs that kind of work a little differently. And, you know, there's not as many of them, but they are important. Beg is an important verb, you know, something we use. So General Svoboda begged him to fly. So what we want to learn here is, like it says here, you have an object plus two. So after the verb, you have a person, and then you have an infinitive. So you have verb So beg someone to do something. That's how I kind of like to think of it. Beg someone to do something. Dare works similar. I know dare is a difficult word in Czech verb because I've never been able to find the proper translation for dare into Czech, like how we use it. I know some of you will know that. But I've never found like a really adequate, but it's something we use. I dare you. He dared me to do it, and all these things. We use this a lot in English, especially when you're growing up. And then this is an important one, tell. And this structure you should learn because I always try to explain to my students from the beginning the difference between say and tell. And the difference is that structure. And when we use tell, it's always tell someone. So after tell, unless it's an idiomatic phrase, 92%, there's going to be a person. Tell me, tell my mom, tell the dog, tell the boss, tell us, tell the neighbor, tell Boženka. Okay, and then if there's a verb after that, it's going to be an infinitive verb. Told me to clean the apartment, told me to be home by midnight. All right, so, and then that's what we want to learn with tell. Okay, so when you use tell, there's exceptions like tell the truth, and these are more like idiomatic phrases, tell a story, but when we use tell as in reported speech, you need this structure. Tell someone to do something. All right. Say is different. Say, there's not a person there. It's say something. Usually we just have a clause after say. All right. So again, Vince kind of goes over some of these like more unusual or different ways we use some of these. And I would focus on the ones that are in my lecture notes because these are the forms that are most likely to pop up on our credit test at the end of the semester. And then here we have a different structure, verbs that are followed by an infinitive with no to in between, this is sort of unusual, an exception, and they often use an object, but not always. So help, she helped me shop. So here, help someone do, help us go, help me build. There's no to in between. All right, that's how help does it. Make is similar. Made his brother. Make someone do something. Means you force them to do it. All right. You don't want to put a to in there with make because it just sounds weird to a native speaker. If you take an Oxford test, you'll get it wrong, or even on the credit test. If you don't put a to in there after make. All right, and then let us do. Okay, so that's what you want to learn if you can. And again, you can see here, these rules are what I call general rules, and really, really, really look at the lists and explanation that Vance gives us. I find them useful, and I find that they will really help you expand your ability to feel confident about how do you create these sentences using, even if you just learn the vocabulary and verbs that are in here and become aware of those structures, you will see you can apply them and will like to all the rest of your life when you're using other verbs, and it will help you feel more confident, be able to construct these sentences. So take a look at that, do the exercises, that's important. I recommend that for sure. And again, our goal this semester and in general is for you guys to prepare yourself, get ready for the credit test, and then all of you to pass it. So that's it for today. Always feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns. And that's it for now. See you later.